Hello, and good afternoon to everybody that is joining us today here live at the waterhole. We have started at Tembe Elephant Park in Maputo, South Africa. And what a lovely scenery to start with today. Some elephants. It's a nice hot warm day in southern Africa. Maybe if we're lucky, these elephants will have a bit of a pool party later. And we have a big male giraffe that's also chilling in the shade of the tree. My name is Kerry Dupree, and just a reminder to all of our viewers today that this is a live and interactive experience, so you can watch us on our app, or if you want to head across to our website and register to ask any questions. Join in the chitter chatter of the day. Let us know if you have any locations that you would like to check out. You could also head across to X and use the hashtag to join me on this lovely day here live at the watering hole. I think I just saw a woolly necked stork. Have a look there. How cool is that? So yeah, there could be a few woolly necked storks here. We've also got some impala to the far left. So it is a busy start of the show today here at Tembe. Some impala. You can see at least 3 woolly necked storks and quite a few big elephant bulls. Oh, some more elephant bulls coming down. Looks like a bit of a windy day. Some clouds building up. How awesome is that? Definitely a nice hot day. Lots of rain building, but no rain in sight for sure at most of our locations here today in southern Africa, mostly in South Africa. Johannesburg, I know, is quite warm. Oh, some woolly neck storks playing and fighting there. What's going on there? Harriet Hodgin, thank you for joining us today. Welcome, welcome. I hope you're having a lovely day in Cape Town. I hope it's not too windy, and I hope you're not having too much warm weather. We are definitely sweating quite a lot here in Joburg. It's been quite high temperatures of 31 to 35 degrees the last couple of days. We are praying for some rain. Check out these woolly neck storks bill clapping. Wonder what they're up to. If they're displaying, is it a mating display of some sort? Two males challenging each other. Penelope Kenyon, thank you for joining us. It's lovely to be here, and thank you for joining us from your classroom. How exciting. I'm glad that we can bring you some entertainment while you're busy working away in your classroom. And hope all of your viewers enjoy the show today. Ari, thank you for joining us. And I hope Netherlands weather is treating you well. I hope it's not too cold. I wonder if you still have some snow over in the Netherlands, Ari. So, Austin, thank you for your questions. We have a question from Austin about elephants and their hearing. So, yes, Austin, because elephants have such large ears, they do have a very good sense of hearing. And of course, because they have that very long trunk of theirs, they're also very well developed to have a specialized, very strong sense of smell. We've got some impala here. These woolly necked storks are doing a very strange, and I've never seen them behaving in this way. So these are a migratory bird, so they've migrated down to southern parts of Africa. Generally, they breed in Asia, some of the stork species, and then migrate down. I know should have a lot of Abdin storks at the moment, and yellow-billed storks that also migrated from Asia. If I'm not mistaken, I think the woolly neck storks are mostly intra-African migrants. You get different types of bird species that migrate within Africa, and some species that migrate Palearctic migrants, which do migrate further to Europe and Asia. So these guys travel quite far distances in order to breed and migrate, and generally breeding migratory birds like these storks do follow the rains in order to receive food from the flush of insects. Definitely see on windy days like today, a lot of antelope species will tend to reside to lying down on the ground, keeping out of the wind. The wind could be building up for some rainfall. which I wouldn't be surprised with all this heat that we have been having. Mercedes Benz, greetings, greetings. I hope you are having a lovely Monday. Oh, check out this elephant. Incredibly long tusks on this elephant here. So again, lots of bigger elephants, a very big-bodied elephants, so probably a lot of big elephant bulls that are joining us today. We find a very healthy population of elephants here in Tembe Elephant Park, and for me, it's one of the best places in South Africa to find tuskers. Of course, you can find a lot of tusker elephants over in the Kruger, but sometimes it can be difficult to find these elephants with very large tusks. Whereas if you go to Tembe, even if you just do 1 or 2 game drives in Tembe, you're more than guaranteed to see a handful of tuskers. Whereas Kruger, you might spend a bit more time searching for these massive tusker elephants. So I know in Sabi Sands and Juma, I saw, I would say, at least 2 very impressive male tusked elephants, or male tuskers. But of course, that was after I did spend a few weeks there. So, yeah, if you're looking for elephants with massive tusks and looking to find the great or most perfect safari destination in South Africa to see these massive elephant bulls, I would 100% recommend going to Tembe Elephant Park. You also get your Big Five experience. They do have Big Five in Tembe. Of course, as you can see, we have a very healthy giraffe population, a very good birding as well because of the habitat, a lot of thick foresty vegetated areas. So it makes for perfect birding as well if you are a twitch and interested in finding some birds. So it's middle of the day. It's quite hot out there in the bush at the moment, so you can see why these elephants are really enjoying coming and residing underneath these shady trees, cooling themselves with a bit of a splish and a splash here and there, as well as some nice cool sand. It seems to be quite a favorite spot for these elephants, standing and resting underneath these very shady acacia trees. Our giraffe has the same idea. He's trying to get out of that sunshine. I'm not surprised. I was out in the sun for a few hours this morning, and yeah, definitely hopping into every single shady spot that I could find. What a lovely day is to be out in the bush with these elephants, watching to see what comes by. I'm curious about our weavers. We did have some southern masked weavers that were actually nesting inside this big green tree that we're looking at that's giving this giraffe some shade right now. But yeah, they didn't seem to be there too long. They were chattering away. Maybe they've moved to another tree. But this tree does provide lots of shade to all the animals around. If we keep our eyes peeled, I haven't seen our little kingfisher friend. So there's a pied kingfisher that sometimes hangs out on the bottom lower branches on this tree while searching for a meal. Well, yeah, they'll sit up on a little branch there and wait to look for a fish and triangulate the correct position before shooting down into the water and catching himself a fish for breakfast. So keep an eye out for that pied kingfisher. Lots of other really cool birds we can find around this pan. Obviously, we had our woolly neck storks, which is really cool to see. Got a lot of greenbill species here in Tembe Elephant Park. There's our kingfishers. We get our brown hooded kingfisher. And if we're lucky, maybe we'll find some little bee eaters. So Tammy, very good question from Tammy about elephants and if elephants have any allergies. So Tammy, no, elephants are actually pretty resistant and resilient to most things. Obviously, they have very thick skin, so I've never seen elephants having an allergic reaction on their skins because they're very thick, so very hardy and not easily affected by much. But there are a lot of noxious and toxic plants out there, which I wouldn't say are allergies, so that's more poison, noxious poisonous plants, which if elephants feed on too much, they might become very sick, very ill. You do find often during the rainy seasons like now when all the green vegetation comes through, a lot of animals feed on way too much greenery, and that does sometimes upset their stomachs a little bit. So if you're in the bush on a walking safari, on a game drive this time of year, you often find a lot of very runny elephant dungs, and that's quite normal for this time of the year. Imagine they've gone for 4, 5 months, 6 months without feeding on green vegetation. So that's just their stomachs getting used to all this lush green leaves and grass that they are not quite used to. So, yeah. But quite interesting, Tammy, that you ask about elephants and allergies, because so with the drought that we've been experiencing in a lot of African countries the last couple of years, there's a lot of plants that we've noticed in the last 2 years that elephants have been feeding on quite a lot, which is not necessarily normal. One of these plants is called Nkauzan in Zimbabwe. And this last year, they completely demolished all of these plants. Again, it's a very small plant that grows. It's almost like a ground cover. And these elephants, unlike most years, have completely eaten this plant from most areas. And that plant is very poisonous to most ungulates. So any, for example, your buffalo, any livestock, even zebra, if they feed on that plant and go to water, the reaction of the chemicals in that plant to the water can actually kill those animals. And it's very quick, so you find a lot of animals dead very close to watering hole. But this year, elephants seem to have been feeding on a lot of this very noxious plant and not having too many deaths from the plant. So it's quite incredible how nature has adapted to being able to feed on more noxious plants that normally they would not feed on, especially in times of drought. The same as with the teak trees. So teak trees are known for being very high in tannins. So just like the same tannins you have in red wine, gives a very bitter taste. If you're not a wine drinker and you taste some red wine, I'm sure you're going to have a bit of a pouty face and not quite used to that very high tannin taste. So elephants have been feeding a lot on these teak leaves. Even buffalo and other large mammals have been feeding on these teak trees this last dry season because they just don't have enough food during the drought. So this shows how incredible wildlife is and how adaptable to their environment, especially in hard times. Which, thank goodness, in most of our locations in Africa are very dry. Times have passed, and we are looking forward to this lovely green season. Lots of rain, lots of greenery, and the elephants have survived most of the hard times. If you have a look on the left-hand side, you have a pretty cool elephant here. He's got a floppy ear, so it's an elephant bull. We do see tembe quite often, just a floppy ear, and it does happen quite often with elephants. They can rip their ears, tear their ears off. Shame there was a elephant cow the other day in Kruger that I saw some photos of that had a completely ripped ear. She had barely any ear left. And what happens is they can damage the ear cartilage and also obviously moving through the vegetation, get their ears torn off as well. Males, when fighting, can damage their cartilage, but it doesn't affect his hearing, so he probably still has very good hearing. Alrighty, well, it's been great starting off the show here at Tembe Elephant Park, but why don't we head across to Campus Dam and do some birding, shall we? Whoa! So welcome to Campus Dam, everyone in Kimberley. It's been quite a while since we've been fortunate enough to have this location. The camera's probably been down. So, okay, let's get started and see what birds we have here. So I'm seeing, obviously, we've got loads of blacksmith lapwings in the foreground. I'm seeing a red-knobbed coot. Also, where in the foreground there's the black and white birds are the sacred ibis, one of my favorite ibises. They're quite brightly colored. And I'm seeing some white-faced whistling ducks. And these other black birds could be glossy ibises. What a festive birding location this is. So I'm just going to give a bit of a quiet moment and you can listen to these white-faced whistling ducks vocalizing. So I just wanted to give a moment of silence just to listen to those white-faced whistling ducks calling there. They are one of my favorite duck species to listen to. Always reminds me of amazing times on the Zambezi River. But they are quite a common bird, these white-faced whistling ducks in southern Africa. So if you haven't tuned in to Live at the Waterhole for a while, just a bit of information about Campers Dam here. So it is a very good birding hotspot. You do get a lot of lesser flamingos. It is a breeding site for the lesser flamingos, which fortunately I'm not seeing any today, but it's probably because we're not in the breeding season at the moment. So Campers Dam is located near Kimberley, which is in the Northern Cape, and it is a very significant wetland area and of course a birding hotspot and very much renowned for incredible birding. So I know a lot of birders in South Africa. If you want to hit some birding hotspots, this is definitely an important birding hotspot because of these wetlands that attract a lot of birds. There must be lots of food and very much important ecological importance of this dam. You can get apparently over 60 different species recorded, which does also include pelicans, herons, and of course a multitude of duck species. So what an epic sighting today. I also saw a black-winged stilt. So we've got a black-winged stilt in the center of the screen, just on the bottom there. So Austin, thank you for your question. So Austin is asking if any of these birds here are scavengers. So no, most of these bird species, Austin, that we are looking at here today, these are all wading species. So they're all feeding on plant material that is in the water. So obviously a lot of ducks mostly feed on aquatic plants. There must be a very high insect population as well. And of course you have your ibises, which are filter feeders or kind of filter while they're feeding through the vegetation. So these wetlands really do attract a multitude of birds, and Campers Dam is a kind of very good tourist attraction area. So a lot of conservation efforts have been taken out in order to maintain and protect this area. So it's really awesome to be able to link across to Campers Dam, as I haven't been here for quite some time. So you hear lots of wading birds, lots of water. So check out these ibises moving around. I haven't seen any Egyptian geese. I'm having a look around. Whoop. I wouldn't be surprised if we also found some terns might come in here, as well as maybe a grey-headed gulls, probably also migrating through. It's lovely to see. Oh, we've got some gulls there. I wouldn't be surprised if we had some skimmers. What is coming in here? Lots of bird species. So we've probably got over 7, 8, 9 different bird species all in frame here. How incredible is this? So the majority of these ibises are blackbirds, these sacred ibises and glossy ibises. Of course, they are opportunistic feeders, and they do feed on kind of whatever is available, anything from aquatic prey, so small fish, crustaceans, to terrestrial prey. I know that especially adapted bill of the ibis is especially adapted for probing into long, thick vegetation for worms, grasshoppers, or beetles. And of course, they do feed on seeds and plant material as well. So yeah, that curved bill, especially designed for probing and for feeding. How epic is this? I'm going to do a bit of a bird count quickly to see how many bird species we have here. So, okay, we've got our blacksmith lapwings, blackwing stilts, got those white-faced whistling ducks. We have the sacred ibis, the glossy ibis, knob-billed coot. Oh, yeah, the knobbed coot, red-knobbed coot. That's 6. Oh, I just heard. What was that? That was calling. Well, it's probably the coots. I think those were tern, probably could be our whiskered terns. So that's 7 different bird species just that I can count at this moment. A white-faced whistling duck, that's 8 different species. How epic is that? Oh, there we go. There's our terns coming back. It would be lovely if we could see some flamingos. I'm crossing my fingers for flamingos, but like I said, it's probably not their breeding season at this moment, so I wouldn't be surprised. But African skimmers, I wouldn't be surprised if we had some African skimmers coming through here. Definitely a very busy location, lots happening. And again, where is our Egyptian goose? I think if we could get an Egyptian goose, that would be pretty awesome. And I think open-billed stork would also be quite a cool bird to see. So those open-billed storks actually have a gap in their bill. So if you watch an open-billed storks as they walk kind of side profile, you can actually see they have this open gap in their bill, and that's specifically, it's like a nutcracker. So they pick up on little mollusks, and they use that open part of their bill, just like a nutcracker, to crack open mollusks. And that's what they feed on, mostly mollusks. Do look like we have some nests of some sort in this dead tree in the wetland here. Could be a southern masked weaver nest. Oh, there we go. There's a grey-headed gull. So you see, we've got the smaller birds, which look like the whiskered terns, and we've just got 2 grey-headed gulls coming in here. So that's 9 different bird species so far that we're at. I can see here, if any of our viewers see any more birds, please feel free to send them through to me on a comment. In a wetland area like this, I'll also be looking out for our little plovers, sandpipers. What else could we look for? Green shanks. You could probably get green shanks in a wetland area like this. So let's have a look. What else can we find? It's a birders paradise here today. If you have a decent camera, be very ready to go to this location and lie on your belly and have a lot of patience to try and take pictures of all of these birds all together. Be really cool birding photography right here to see so many different birding species in one spot. Have to love that sound of the white-faced whistling ducks. Oh, I'm just having a look. Let's see if there's any more birds. I've got 9 different bird species at the moment. I'd love to add some more. So if we have a look in the thick reeds, just to the far right of the screen, we've got some nice thick green reeds there. That would be a perfect nesting site for our red bishops. So a lot of red bishops love to nest in very thick reeded vegetation like that in wetland areas. Could also get some egrets here and herons. So probably, I guess you'd get a little egret or an intermediate egret, as well as your great white egret. Could also occur in a wetland area like this. And of course your grey heron, your black-headed herons could also reside in a nice ecosystem like this. So Folly, thank you for your comment. Nope, these birds don't seem spooked by too much. They seem very happy, little happy ecosystem here. So birds and fish are actually very good indicator species of a healthy environment. So in a lot of areas, if they are void of birds and fish, then you know that there's something wrong in the ecosystem. So this is obviously a very healthy ecosystem here. There's lots of birds. It means that there's lots of small aquatic life and invertebrates living and residing inside these pans. So they're very good indicator species. And fish, for example, if you have a die out of fish in an area, it could mean that there's something lacking in that water. Either their water could be contaminated or lack of oxygen. Just like in Biffleshoek Dam, I know a few months ago there was a bit of a die out of fish at Biffleshoek, and it was suspected that because of the buffalo herd moving through that dam the day before, it could have been some sort of lack of oxygen that caused all those fish to die. So again, very good indicator species to look at: water birds, fish, invertebrates, small invertebrates, and aquatic life that live inside these pools and ponds. Oh, there we go, folks. We have some flamingos. Oh, exciting. Coming in at number 10 on our list. These look like the lesser flamingos. Let me confirm on my birding app. So folks, if I'm using my Newman's birding app now, so if you would like to download or buy the Newman's birding app, please feel free to head across to our website, and there is a discount code there that you can use in order to purchase the Newman's birding app. So it's a very useful tool, very helpful. You get a lot of calls, a lot of pictures, a lot of information, and it's just helped me to identify these flamingos. So these are actually the greater flamingos that we're looking at here. I'm going to play one of their calls for you so you can hear the sound of these flamingos. So yeah, not the most attractive of calls, but yeah, flamingos, I guess, are not known for their beautiful voices. They're more known for their beautiful long pink legs, and of course their very dainty and elegant bodies. So really cool. I haven't seen flamingos for quite some time, so this is lovely to add some more birds to our list. So there's 10 different bird species here. How epic. So these flamingos are kind of distributed quite well across Africa and southern Europe, from West Asia to southern Asia. So they are very large birds. You can see them filter feeding now, so they have to put their heads down into the water with their bill upside down, and they do filter feed. You do get this palish pink color from the food that they feed on. So it's quite interesting. When flamingos have come from the ocean, you can tell because their feathers are generally a lot pinker in color, very bright pink. So I'm guessing these flamingos have probably come from an inland location. So I know these flamingos also move through Botswana, through the Okavango in the Delta. There are areas, or not the Delta, the old salt pans in the Nata area in the southern part of Botswana. There's some nesting areas there where the flamingos move through, which of course there's not so many freshwater crustaceans. So kind of what they feed on, a lot of the crustaceans they feed on, they get that bright pink coloration. So I'm guessing those flamingos probably came from a more inland region as opposed to a coastal region. If they come from the coast, it's very noticeable, that bright pink coloration. How epic. Some flamingos to start off our Monday. Lots of our terns coming in, our biscuit terns. Love to see a pelican. Pelican would be another epic bird to put onto our list. Oh, I'm hearing some interesting sounds, which to me sounds like it could be a crane of some sort. I know cranes make very unusual sounds like this. Just have a little bit of a listen. What bird was that? The wattled cranes do make an unusual sound, as well as the crowned cranes. Oh, check out these terns. So many terns. Oh my goodness. So Lady Macbeth, yes, this is really epic to see the flamingos here today. I wasn't sure if we'd see flamingos, but lovely to see a small flock of flamingos. And yeah, pretty interesting fact about these flamingos. So those long legs of flamingos are kind of similar in how secretary birds' legs are structured. So obviously very long legs. They don't have any muscles in those legs. It's mainly just skin, bone, and some obviously blood vessels to get the blood circulating, but a very, very strong skin around their legs there, and that enables them to be able to walk in very hot and acidic water. So sometimes the water that they reside in, to the human touch, it would normally burn our skin. But for these flamingos, they're able to wade and walk through very temperate water without being affected. So Folia, thank you for your question. So yes, there is probably quite a lot of fish in this water. Some of these waterfowl species do need to feed on small crustaceans, small fish species, invertebrates, and insects, as well as mollusks. So that's why there's such a healthy population of bird life here, is because obviously there's more than enough food for all of these birds to go around. So lovely to spend some time watching all these birds. I can't believe how many terns are all flying in here. There must be over 40, 50 terns. We've still only got our two grey-headed gulls on the left-hand side. What are these terns up to? So again, whiskered tern, another species of tern that so they mostly occur along the coastal regions, although you do frequently get them from time to time in inland water sources. So I have seen them in random pans and dams or watering holes in landlocked countries, which is always, to me, quite unusual. But yeah, definitely a more migratory bird that does move quite a lot, the whiskered tern. Just trying to listen to what that bird was calling earlier. Of course, he stopped calling now. So anyway, these whiskered terns that are all on the kind of closer to the bank here near the blacksmith lapwing. So it is a medium-sized water bird. It does belong to the family Laridae. They are widespread across through Africa, Asia, and Europe, and even seen in some parts of Australia. Oh, it sounds like we've also got some. Oh, here we go. It's the grey-headed gull calling. It sounds like we could also have some moorhens. You can hear some moorhens or the African crake calling. So there we go. So we had a question earlier about fish from Folly about fish. So these whiskered terns, their main diet is actually small fish, insects, crustaceans, and larvae. So of course there must be a lot of fish in this estuary here that's providing food for all these water birds. What a lovely sighting. I know some birders and birding guides that can spend a whole day sitting at a watering hole like this. I think it would be quite difficult to keep up with counting all of these birds if you were sitting at this watering hole right now and you were e-birding or bird lassoing, counting all these birds. It might be a little bit difficult to catch all these numbers. I definitely could probably count the blacksmiths and the red-knobbed coot, but yeah, these terns, the white-faced whistling ducks, and sacred ibises would be quite difficult to count, I think. And they just keep coming in. Isn't that incredible? Wonder what our flamingos are up to. I just heard the red-knobbed coot vocalizing. Alrighty, why don't we head across to Tau and see what is happening at some of our other locations. Alrighty, we've got some more birding happening here at Tau. Goodness gracious. Tau has definitely changed a lot since the last time I saw this location. Lots of rain must have fallen in this area, so great to see lots of greenery. And we've got a yellow-billed stork here, a blacksmith lapwing, and some Egyptian geese. That's really a good birding day today. We've had some really good birds, and I'm loving seeing all these flowers, lots of yellow flowers, obviously lots of butterflies. Just seems like all of our locations are thriving with life at the moment, so very refreshing and lovely to see there's so much water. I wonder where our crocodiles are at Tau. We still got our 3 big crocodiles living in this pan. We had a pretty cool kill a few weeks ago. There was one of the crocodiles had killed a small water buck at Tau, and yeah, I managed to take it up onto a bank, and we actually watched this crocodile for about 30 minutes thrashing about this poor carcass of the water buck, trying to break off pieces there. So yeah, it was pretty epic sighting. Not something you see every day. Definitely a not for sensitive viewers moment. Oh, we have the red-knobbed coot here. I do love these coots. And if you've never seen red-knobbed coot's feet before, I definitely recommend Googling that right now. It's very difficult to see their feet. I've never actually seen their feet in the wild. The first time I saw a picture of a red-knobbed coot's feet, it's probably on Instagram. And yeah, they have very unusual, knobbly little toes with little nodes and knobs. They almost look like a gecko's feet. So of course, they have those splayed, knobbed feet in order to walk on the lilies and vegetation that they manage to spend so much time in the water. So it's one of the adaptations, those feet of theirs, to being able to survive in such aquatic environments. Our Egyptian geese population still looks pretty healthy. Sorry, folks. Looks like we had some signal challenges with our camera there, and Tau Game Lodge. So just linked back across to Sabi Sands in South Africa, having a look at another very wet and aquatic, watery environment. Beak and I had a lot of fun in Mabula a few weeks ago, looking for tadpoles and frogs. Did quite a lot of frogging, which was quite a bit of fun. We've got a woodland kingfisher also vocalizing in the background. Yeah, I remember this time last year, I think I was also in Sabi Sands at Juma, And it was such a pleasure and delight to hear these woodland kingfishers calling every day. Always brings a bit of a smile to your face. It's always lovely to hear these birds. Always reminds you of the bush and yeah, lovely natural environment. Maybe we can find some fish, any movement. So at this time of the year, when the frogs have already spawned, frogs and fish have spawned, frogs have laid their eggs. So generally, lay their eggs in strings. Frogs will lay their eggs in a cluster. And yeah, once the tadpoles hatch, in order to protect themselves, they all huddle up in these little groups and they like in a cloud over the water. So it's quite incredible to see. I'm delighted to see that Juma has had a lot of rain, so it's looking very lush and green over in Juma. Lots of rainfall, which is very refreshing. Shame I know Juma had some very dry times, and Gowrie Dam was completely dried up a few weeks ago. So lovely to see it's finally full. Lots of water everywhere. The animals are happy. Does make game viewing a little bit difficult when you've got such long, thick grass like this. Let's see, maybe for kingfisher, maybe we can get some kingfisher species. Alrighty, talking about Mabula, why don't we head over to GNU Pan and see what's happening in Mabula? Oh, have a looky here. What do we have? Two white-faced whistling ducks, looking like they're getting up to mischief. They look like they were caught in the act of doing something naughty. So they're probably feeding down there, filter feeding. Yeah, check at that. We've got some dragonflies. So GNU Pan also looks lovely, full of green vegetation. Check at these ducks, aren't they cool? So they're probably a male and female. Generally hang out in pairs, these white-faced whistling ducks. Lovely to see them bobbing under the water like that. Check at them. Perfect aquatic environment for these white-faced whistling ducks to hang out. So I do love it. So they're generally in pairs, but you can find them in big flocks, anything up to 20, 30 individuals all in one area. They are very social birds and highly gregarious. So as mentioned, they can travel in flocks of even a few hundred. Um, they're not of any concern when it comes to being endangered. So there are very large numbers of these ducks. It's very unusual behavior. I've never seen them diving for so long. They do have quite a varied diet, these white-faced whistling ducks. They do feed on plant materials as well as small aquatic animals. So they could be diving down there to look for some kind of aquatic plants, roots, shoots, leaves, or aquatic vegetation coming from these reeds that we're seeing at the top here. So they do feed on grain from time to time as well as small mollusks, snails, crustaceans, as well, and insects. So I'm seeing a lot of dragonflies here. So I'm sure they would feed on dragonfly larvae if they found some dragonfly larvae. And they do also feed at night, these white-faced whistling ducks. So they do what is known as the double diving, which is what they're doing now. And this is how they forage. So they kind of will dabble at the water's surface as well as dive and submerge themselves underwater to look for food, which is quite unusual. I've never seen this behavior before. I heard about the fact that they double dive, but I've never actually seen them diving for so long. You can see how long they can hold their breath underwater. Of course, there are opportunistic feeders, these white-faced whistling ducks, and that's probably what makes them so successful and makes them very adaptable to different environments. It's probably one of my favorite duck species. I mean, I'd love to see the mallard. Mallard is a very beautiful duck, but these white-faced whistling ducks, that call of theirs is just very special for me. And yeah, they are a very beautiful looking duck. So if any of our viewers are watching and you would love to tell me what your favorite duck species is, or which is your duck lifer that you would love to see, please feel free to send through your comment. I'd love to know what beautiful ducks are out there and what ducks you would like to see. Just like these beautiful white-faced whistling ducks. Another duck species that's very similar to these white-faced whistling ducks that's often mistaken is the full-use whistling duck. Very similar to the white-faced whistling duck, but of course absent of that white shield on their face. Of course, we do also have the knobbed-billed ducks that we see on our live safaris quite often, as well as, where have I seen? I think at Tau Game Lodge I've seen the white-faced whistling duck quite often. Sorry, the knob-billed duck and white-faced whistling ducks. So, Vienus, William, thank you for sending to your comment. It is really beautiful watching these ducks as they double and dip down into the water. You can see lots of very murky sediment filled water at this pan here. So again, it can be because of all the runoffs from the mountains. So obviously what happens in some of these areas like in Mabula, obviously surrounded by the Waterberg Mountains, a lot of runoff from the mountains end up filling up these pans that are in the low-lying areas, and that can leave the pans being quite dirty and sediment filled. What do we have here? These cormorants. Ooh, oh no, there's a dab chick. Oh goodness. And check, it's got a nest. So this is a little dab chick or a grebe that is actually on a nest. So there's two here and they look like they're building nests. How cute is this? Don't see this very often. So we do see aquatic birds all the time, but you don't think about where they build their nests. So I've also seen a red-knobbed coot nest, and they also make very similar nests like the dab chick, normally a little bit more well hidden in vegetation. Very, very cool. It's definitely a birding lifer for me. My first time actually seeing dab chicks nesting. Don't see that very often. So I don't think there's any eggs on there yet. They look like they're busy constructing the nest. So as you can see, male and female do help one another in order to build the nest. And then they do both co-parent while sitting on the eggs. So Folly, sorry that you live in a concrete jungle and don't see many ducks, but you'd be surprised, Folly, if you have any parks or dams near you or any parks that have small ponds, you could actually find some water birds. So I am also in a concrete jungle at the moment in Johannesburg, but I have two little parks close to me, and I do get sacred ibis there. I've seen the knob-billed ducks. I've also seen they also have some crakes there if we're lucky. So yeah, Folly, have a look close to you if you have any ponds in any parks. You'd be surprised. There are still quite a lot of water birds that do occur in the concrete jungles. So Sam, I am having a look, Sam, for your ruddy duck. Never heard of a ruddy duck, so I'm very excited to see what it looks like. Oh, okay. So the ruddy duck to me does look quite similar to the white-faced whistling duck, but it only has white on the cheeks, a blue bill, and kind of burgundy feathers. Very unusual looking duck. So thank you for sharing that with me, Sam. Ruddy duck, I'll definitely put it on my list. Quite an interesting looking duck species. Lady Macbeth, thank you for sharing that there are a lot of duck species in London parks. Yes, actually, I've seen quite a few beautiful photos of mallards and quite an array of different duck species in the UK. So, yeah, the parks are definitely the place to hit if you want to find some ducks. I'm wondering what this little dab chick is up to. Maybe stretching her wings for the morning. So amazing how these mother birds waterfowl, this mother dab chick, just like humans, are very dedicated to raising their chicks, building the perfect nest, feeding their chicks, and raising a happy little family of ducklings or bird chicks. So, yeah, very dedicated parents. These dab chicks can take days, even up to a week, to construct the perfect nest in order to start growing their little family. Thank you for sharing this information, Lady Macbeth. I'm learning a lot about duck species in London. Apparently, there are 22 different duck species that can be found in London, which is crazy. I would have never guessed so many duck species could be found in the city. Of course, well, there's some bird species that have become adapted to living around humans. So, yeah, very exciting to hear that you can still see some ducks in the concrete jungle. So have a look. This male dab chick looks like he's just been foraging down on the floor of this pan, looking for the perfect thick vegetation. So building a nest for water birds can be a little bit tedious because they need to make sure they construct the nest that is floating but yet isn't too heavy that it actually sinks. Otherwise, their eggs will kind of just roll into the water. But it also has to be camouflaged enough that it doesn't attract predators. So, this Gnu Dam here in Mabula is quite a nice secluded dam. It's not too busy, not too much traffic of large mammal species. It's in an area where, unfortunately, at the moment, with all the rains, the roads are pretty much closed in that area. So it gives these ducks a perfect private nesting ground to raise their chicks. This area where this cameras in Mabula and Gnu Dam is also an area that is very well known for some mysterious species. So before BK and I left, this was the same area that all the wild dogs were hanging out in. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were some wild dogs lying underneath a shady tree somewhere close by, and also the rhinos. So there's very special rhinos that occur here in Mabula, and this is a well-known area for finding them. But of course, it is a quite a torturous area to drive around in. Very thick, thorny vegetation. So yeah, I don't think BK and I spent a day going to this area without getting scratched to pieces by all the acacia thorns. And of course, the roads have been completely washed away. So that means that these ducks are very happy that they're in a very quiet environment. So another very pretty duck species I'm looking at here. If anyone wants to send me their favorite duck species, please feel free. I'm looking at the mandarin duck. So very brightly colored duck, mandarin duck, full of colors, white, blues, pinks. Female is a bit drab, but the male looks very beautiful. Let's see what other... Oh, we've got some terrapins. Hello. How awesome to see some little terrapins. Oh my goodness, how many terrapins are on this log? At least four, three, four terrapins lying on this log here. Three on the left-hand side, one on the right. Also good indicator species of a healthy aquatic environment. So those little terrapins will also feed on little fish. Our white-faced whistling ducks are also very busy. And we can also keep a lookout in this pan for painted snipe. So Beak and I did have an epic sighting of painted snipes on Mabula. So that was a really awesome day. We actually saw it twice, so we keep our eyes open. Maybe we find a painted snipe, although I think they need to have more thick reeded vegetation. It might not be thick enough for them here. So Vinance William, thanks for your question. So no, these ducks could actually be feeding. So what these ducks are doing is they're actually diving down onto the bottom of this pan, and they're actually could be feeding. So either they are trying to feed on the roots of a lot of these reeds that are inside the pan, or they could also be foraging for aquatic kind of invertebrates, even small fish. So it's kind of a foraging method known as dabbling, and that's how these um, ducks will be feeding on the vegetation and small invertebrates. So, yeah, quite an interesting feeding method. We've got something at the pan, folks. What is on the other side of the pan? Oh, hello. We got a giraffe. Lovely to see a giraffe coming down to Gnu Dam here in Mabula. He's very skeptical, very nervous. Those wild dogs are probably around somewhere, so he's just being a little bit cautious. He looks like he's in quite good condition. Looks like another hot day here in Mabula. So he looks like quite an older male giraffe. So you can see, fortunately, he's got quite swollen ankles. So it's one of the signs that you can tell if a giraffe is a bit older. Is sometimes their joints do swell up quite a lot. It does look like he's a little bit thin as well. So yeah, unfortunately, every creature has their time on this earth. Not everything can live forever, but I'm sure this male giraffe has had a splendid life and yeah, has definitely explored Mabula Private Game Reserve very well. Always lovely to see these giraffe coming down for a drink. So a lifespan of a big male giraffe like this can be anything between 20 to 25 years. Obviously, in captivity, a lot of animals, except for elephants unusually, can live a lot longer. So some elephants in captivity have been recorded to have lived up to about 28 years or even longer. So again, the benefit of giraffe like this living in captivity is any kind of ailments, they can get veterinary care, which can help to prolong their lifespan. Whereas in the natural environment, it's a little bit more difficult for them to get care like this. So this looks like he was definitely a very handsome and impressive male giraffe. Got a very thick neck there, so I'm sure in his day he was very dominant male that, yeah, I'm sure won a lot of battles, a lot of fights. Sandy Franklin 69, good morning, or should I say good afternoon? Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today to see this beautiful, handsome male giraffe. I must say, I do love that mane on the back of a giraffe's neck. So they do have this almost kind of, what would you say, strawberry blonde mane. Okay, turtle dove calling there. So I've been dying to explore this area of Mabula a bit more because it's quite different vegetation to the rest of the reserve. So very thick, very dense, as you can see around this giraffe here. So of course, it's obviously a lot of different bird species that occur here. So I'm hearing a chin spot batis, but it could be a Cape batis as well. I did actually see a Cape batis while I was at Mbula. It was a pretty epic lifer for me. Completely confused me when I first saw that batis. I'm just going to have a look which batis this is calling. Okay, so I'm listening to the calls here, and this batis is definitely a chin spot batis, which the call a good tune that you can use to help to remind you of this chin spot batis, as he normally says, three blind mice. Whereas the Cape batis, I'm going to play the call of the Cape batis for you. You can see quite a difference in those two calls there. So again, when identifying birds and trying to use the process of elimination, you can often try to use the call. So first thing I look for is the habitat. What habitat and distribution do these birds occur in? And then the call can be a very good defining feature. Shame this big giraffe looks rather tired. He looks like he needs an afternoon nap. Alrighty, folks, why don't we head back to Tembe and see what's happening in another location. And we have a big elephant ball. So they seem to love these mud puddles, these elephant balls. You see a lot of these kind of, they look like, to me, it's like a ghost hole, like a little bit of a depression. So lots of minerals in the soil here. So he could be trying to give himself a mud bath, but also feeding on the minerals in the sand here. So Tembe is very well known for having very mineral rich soils, and that's perfect for these elephants. So obviously, all animals, including elephants, do need to consume minerals somehow. I'm sure just like us humans, I take my electrolytes definitely on a hot day or if I feel a bit dehydrated. It's very important to stay hydrated. Take those salts, minerals, and electrolytes. Very important for us humans, but also for these elephants and other mammals. So they'll come down to these mineral areas or sodak areas, that they're also known as sodak areas, and come to try and feed on the mineral rich soil. So it's not just important for elephants, but all mammals will come and feed on these soils, and it's a perfect place to put a camera trap. So if I was setting some camera traps up at this dam, I would put one facing the water, but one camera I would also put facing these mineral lakes, because it's surprising what mammals will come down to feed on these mineral rich soils. To Bongani and Femeni, thank you for watching with us today, Bongani. It is very therapeutic watching these gentle giants out in the bush, listening to the sounds of the birds, just enjoying watching the natural environment. You can see there's a little bit of a breeze, a bit of wind here at Tembe, so I'm going to take a deep breath in. Try to imagine what smells you'd be smelling here right now. This fresh air, I'm imagining the fresh air on my face. It's green season, so I'm guessing you'd get a lot of smells of this disturbed vegetation from the elephants moving over the grass, feeding on the greenery. I'm getting a hint of mud from this elephant splashing himself. And of course, I'm sure with all these elephant balls around, there'd be lots of elephant dung that would be ponging away. Very fresh elephant dung smell. It's interesting, elephant dung actually does smell quite different from the green season to the dry season. And I find forest elephants and savanna elephants dung also smells quite different. I much prefer savanna elephants. The forest elephant dung has quite a strong smell, I must say. This big bull just gave himself a good scratch behind his ear. Another comment from Jinlin watching waterholes. And there is a lovely location to be there. Lovely to see all these animals hanging around. So thank you, Jinlin, for sending through your comment. Imagine you're sitting at this watering hole. You've got these elephants spraying and splashing themselves. I can imagine that sand coming straight into the watering hole. The wind direction changes and you've got sand all over your lens. You feel like you're really in Africa. Like, how crazy is that? Some ponds and watering holes in Africa even have these sunken in hides, which is my favorite hide to visit. in Hyena Pan over in Botswana, and a few of my favorite pans in Wangi National Park in Zimbabwe. Also have these sunken in container hides, which are safe for you to go and sit at, and you're literally at eye level with these gentle giants. You often even get water splashing up against you. The trunks, they're all drinking very close, so very special to have these kind of experiences. And if you want to get close up and personal with wild elephants, definitely two places I would recommend with incredible hides that do get you very close up and personal with wild elephants. Looks like this elephant bull has got a bit of a tired drunk. He's resting his trunk on his tusks. I'm not surprised if you had a long nose that weighed 6 to 8 kilograms. I think I'd also get tired of carrying that nose around all day, rested on my trunk from time to time. So you see, there's a bit of a dominance display between those two bulls. So the elephant bull with the lazy trunk did come and almost wanted to take this mining spot, but obviously this bull stood his ground, and the other bull had to move around him and find a different hole to go and play around in. So, cat fan, I know, and I do feel your pain. I also miss the multi-sensory experience of being in the African bush. So, I'm just going to close my eyes now and imagine these elephants and all the smells that you'd be able to smell. So, another one of my favorite smells at this time of the year is all the wild basil. And you do have some of this pink pan weed that comes up in all the open pan areas. So those two plants, if you disturb them or move over them, you get a very strong basil smell, which is always very refreshing. Obviously, if you're around any animals and they're moving around in this green grass, you can smell the green grass being kind of disturbed. Lots of blackjacks around at the moment, which are not your sock's best friend, but it does have a lovely fresh smell to it. And of course, we cannot forget that beautiful smell of rain, which apparently is actually a perfume. There is a company in Europe, I believe, that actually sells a fragrance which is the same smell as the smell of fresh rain. So Pam D, thank you for watching the show. It is such a pleasure to be able to be with you here and to be able to provide such an experience for our viewers far and wide, no matter where you're watching from. And thank you for sharing about your mallard ducks in East Yorkshire in the UK. Again, mallard is definitely on my list. I'd love to see a mallard duck and photograph a mallard duck. So yeah, I definitely have some time and patience that I could spend photographing bird life and ducks. So while animal sightings are a bit scarce, it's always lovely to be able to do some birding and take some bird photos. It's such a privilege and an honor to be able to experience these natural environment and just to be out in the bush and the wildlife and yeah, appreciating the big things and small creatures is very important. I had a lot of fun in Mabula a few weeks ago. BK and I were having a lot of fun spending hours taking film and photos of little mushrooms, lots of caterpillars around at this time, feeding on all the fresh green leaves. Actually found a very interesting weevil, a donkey faced weevil. I would give that a Google. Never seen a weevil like that before. It's actually quite a big weevil. I'd say at least 3 to 4 centimeters long, and very unusual creature. So lots of interesting insects, worms, caterpillars, butterflies out at this time of year, which just yeah, really completes an experience. I know a lot of safari goers like to go out on safari during the dry season, but there are perks and advantages from traveling in the green season. So you get lots of fresh new life, all these little critters, creepy crawly creatures. Birding is incredible, a lot of migratory birds, a lot of nesting birds, and of course all the baby antelope. Don't forget about the baby creatures. Why don't we have another quiet moment, folks? It is a Monday afternoon. We are really lucky to be here at Tembe Elephant Park. I'm dying to hear what other birds are calling in the background there. I heard a black-backed puffback. So why don't we just have a moment to imagine that you're in Tembe Elephant Park, sniffing in all these fresh smells of the bush during the rainy season and listening to the sounds of these elephants swishing their tails and flapping their ears. Alrighty, folks, it has been a pleasure just listening and imagining the smells of Tembe. Why don't we head across to Founders and see what's waiting for us there? Oh, wow. So, rather strange to change over to Founders Lodge in the Eastern Cape and see such miserable, gooty weather and find some rhinos that are lying in the rain. It's very unusual that Eastern Cape has such different weather to other parts of South Africa, just like Cape Town. Or Cape Town has very backward weather as well. But these rhinos look like they're in a very comfortable position, lying, cuddling right next to each other. Again, if you were sitting in this hide right now, I think you would get the most amazing close up photos of these rhinos with their eyes and ears. I know a lot of people are into video these days, so it would make some really good video, slow motion videos of these rhinos' ears moving back and forth. They are listening to what is around them. They don't have many natural predators, rhinos, but obviously they do still need to be alert and aware of any danger that might be around. They look like they've just come from having a mud bath. Sandy Franklin, I would 100% recommend these hides. Again, Hyena Pan in Botswana. There are only two of these hides I actually know of. If anyone else is aware of any other container hides that they've seen or been in while on safari, please let me know. So it's actually, I think it's these two containers I'm talking about are 10-foot containers. No, it must be 20-foot containers, between 10 to 20-foot containers that have actually been sunk into the ground, buried, and have an outlet of water or a pan right in front of them. So literally you have the elephants less than a few centimeters away from your face. Like you've got the elephants right there. So definitely, Sandy Franklin, I would 100% recommend going and checking out these hides. It's an incredible place to view wildlife. Sandy Franklin, thanks again for the open invitation to come and visit you and to see the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I would love to experience this national park. Sounds like you've got some lovely viewing points and viewing locations there. So thank you for the invite, Sandy. But yeah, it's incredible to spend time in the natural environment and view these hides. Whereas this hide also has a great view right now. These two rhinos, they don't look like they're having too much of a productive day. Sorry, folks, if there's a bit of disturbance, if you can hear a bit of, yeah, very unnatural sounds on my side. There seem to be a lot of people being very productive today. So just trying to clean the screen here. I think with all the rain that we've been having, there's quite a lot of water building up on the camera lens there. So if you see a bit of swiping, it's just us trying to clean the camera. But yeah, that definitely looks like these rhinos have been having a good mud bath, living in their element at this moment. I think I would love to be in the Eastern Cape right now because this hot weather in Johannesburg is yeah, becoming a little bit unbearable. Although I am used to very hot weather, but yeah, when you need to wrap yourself in a soaking towel to sleep at night, it is a bit uncomfortable. But nothing that these rhinos have to worry about. They're pretty happy um, living in this nice, cool weather and having some. So Vians Williams, this is a lovely sighting. So obviously a perfect habitat for these rhinos here in the Eastern Cape. So these are two white rhinos. You can see with the ear notches, they have different ear notches on their ears, and this is a form of identification in these rhinos. So just like our ID numbers, all rhinos have different ear notching systems. And yeah, the Eastern Cape is perfect environment for these rhinos to occur. Nice open grassland areas. They are mostly grazers, so spend a lot of time with their necks down, feeding on the grass. And you can see they've got very thick necks, very strong and thick necks in order to hold those heavy heads of theirs up. So it's also a little wagtail that I find, a Cape wagtail, that does hang out with these rhinos when they're at the pan here, hoping to feed off any disturbed insects. Wendy H, thank you for your comment about Botswana having a container hide. If you can remember what location, Wendy, that this container is at, I would love to know. It's always something I love to do with clients of mine while on safari, visiting container hides. It's always very productive, especially if you've been driving for multiple days on end. Sometimes it's just nice to sit in one place and wait for all the wildlife to come to you. And if you're at the right time, and of course have the right company, it can be quite a pleasure. And patience is always a virtue while on safari, folks. Please remember that. Have a little patience, especially with your guides. If they say wait here, might be a good sighting, or give you advice of, yeah, we need to just sit here for a while, there might be a pretty good reason as to why your guide is, yeah, suggesting a bit of a patience game. I don't think the guides are not always complete nutters. Yeah, I do know a bit about the animal movement and behaviors, which sometimes, if you have a bit of patience, can definitely pay off. Penelope Kenyon, this is a lovely photo right here. Would make for a great screenshot. Definitely a good photo. Completely white background. You don't look close enough, they could just seem like two lumps or two termites. Well, folks, since Botswana has been coming up so much, why don't we head across to Hyena Pan over in Botswana and see what is at the watering hole? So, a completely different setting here in Botswana to the Eastern Cape. Obviously, it's not raining and miserable here in Hyena Pan. So it looks like we're having another sunny day. Lots of beautiful mopanis. So the smell that I'm getting off of this Botswana vibe in Hyena Pan is probably that thick, dense mopani smell. I do love the smell of fresh mopani leaves. If you give those leaves a bit of a crunch, lovely fresh smell. Even if they're not being fed on, you can still smell that very strong mopani smell. So Penelope Kenyon, yes. So the container hide that I'm talking about, I think it is in the quiet private reserve, and it is accessible from Hyena Pan, and it is, yeah, very, very awesome place to go and sit and spend some time. Of course, the time that I've spent there, it was just, I think we saw elephants, and warthogs. But elephants very close up, very cool sighting of elephants. And the clients that I had at that time, it was one of our highlights. So this hyena pan will probably be on the radar of the elephants in this area. So I wouldn't be surprised that this elephant might even later head across to that container hide in the Kwai Private Reserve, which is also a really great denning site for hyenas. So that's where this hyena pan gets its name from. It's a very hyena dense and hyena rich area. A lot of den sites close to and around this camp. And I think when I stayed at Hyena Pan earlier last year, I don't think there was a single night that went by that I did not have a hyena around my tent, bump into a hyena walking back from the restaurant, hyenas around camp, walking by the fire pit. So, yeah, lots of hyena activity. And yeah, here live at the waterhole, we can even see hyenas during the day. I've seen 3 or 4 hyenas on one of the live at the waterhole sessions. It was always delightful. So maybe we can have a scan of the watering hole and see if there's any hyenas lying up under a tree, which sometimes you don't even notice they're there unless you look closer. This elephant bull looks like he's having a great time. So sometimes what the elephants will do is when they come down to this water, if they're looking for mineral rich soil, they'll actually, it looks like he's digging. So they'll actually dig into the soil and soak up that mineral rich water that's below the surface ground level, and he'll drink that water that's filled with minerals. They've also experienced a lot of rainfall here in Hyena Pan. It's lovely to see this watering hole. It's really full and completely flooded. It's almost flooded all the way up until the rims on the one side of the, kind of on the eastern side of the camp. Some of the rims, I'm sure, must have water below the decks. Thank goodness it is quite a well-raised camp. So all the rims are on raised, or tents, all on raised platforms. So flooding is not necessarily a problem. But yeah, incredible to see so much rain. Yes, big boy. He's just giving a bit of a head shake to let us know who's boss. You can see this elephant bull. He's probably, yeah, I'd say an adolescent sub-adult or adolescent adult. I guess he's probably not older than about 40, say in his late 30s, so 40 years. Compared to the elephant bulls we've just seen in Tembe, he's got very small tusks. Obviously, not a lot of mineral-rich soils here in Botswana. It's a very dry, barren area. Sodak areas are also very sparse as opposed to Tembe. So Tembe Elephant Park has a lot of these mineral-rich open areas, which I'm convinced, as well as genetics, of course, is why those Tembe elephants have such impressive tusks. So keep an eye out, folks, in this area here that we're panning across. Often seen hyenas just lying in the shade of a tree underneath these little mapanis, very secretively without being noticed. This would be a lovely photo right here with this reflection of this elephant in the water and that lovely green backdrop. Definitely this season does provide quite interesting or diverse landscape photos. A lot of different areas have all these trees that are in flush, different colors, from bright green new leaves to purple leaves and vegetation. Some areas in Zimbabwe, in our kind of lower highland areas, that looks like a painting with all the different color leaves coming up. You've got greens and pinks and purples and maroons and yellows. Close to Mana Pools, the area that I used to work in, very lovely, almost tapestry or painting looking sceneries everywhere you go at this time of the year with all that green vegetation. I think this elephant is very hungry for minerals. He seems to be digging up a lot of soil. Ah, so he is excreting some liquid from his temporal glands there, which means that this elephant bull is in must. This would explain all the head shaking. It doesn't look like there's too many other elephants around, and yeah, that would definitely explain why he's, for no good reason, shaking his head at us. Have a look. All these mapani trees completely underwater are quite resistant to being flooded, mapani trees, so it would have to be flooded for quite a period of time to kill these mapani trees, but I'm sure they'll definitely survive the season. Not that much water. I'm sure they will survive another year unless the elephants come and feed on them. So again, in this area around Hyena Pan, a lot of the vegetation, a lot of these mapanis have been modified by elephants. Oh, we also have a giraffe, very sneakily hiding in the vegetation there. It just blends in very well, even though there's so much greenery. I hope this elephant doesn't come and cause hassles in the camp. Elephants, especially young elephant bulls and musk, can be quite a nuisance here. Thank you to our Zoomy over in Hyena Pan, doing some great panning work here with this elephant. It's definitely on a mission, I must say. So, Helen, thank you for your question about herbivores and if all herbivores get along. So, yes, Helen, most herbivores do pretty much get along. I mean, I have seen, I do know hippos and elephants can become a bit aggressive with one another from time to time. And I do know of a hippo in Zimbabwe that recently killed a buffalo for no good reason. It was a hippo that was known to be a bit aggressive and started chasing any antelope that came down to the watering hole. And this hippo actually killed buffalo, which never heard of before. But generally, most herbivores stay out of each other's way and get on pretty well. Zebra, although are known for being quite aggressive and can chase and fight with other antelopes. They're known to chase other animals away from sodak areas or at watering holes. But generally, most herbivores do get on pretty well. Maybe if we're lucky, this giraffe will bend down for a drink. Looks like a big male giraffe. Looks like he has survived the dry season. He's looking like he is in quite good condition. Quite a few oxpeckers on him there. Having a bit of a look to see. It's probably red-billed oxpeckers, but I did see a yellow-billed oxpecker on my last Botswana trip, so always keep a lookout for those very rare yellow-billed oxpeckers. Very well camouflaged, this giraffe, I must say. That long tongue of his, giraffe's tongue can measure between 20 to 30 centimeters, a very long blue hardy tongue. So it's almost very rubbery, and that's they use that tongue of theirs to pull off the leaves off of very thick, thorny vegetation like acacias. And it's incredible. If we touch it with our hands, we'll probably get thorns in our hands. So those tongues of the giraffe are very hardy, especially designed for pulling off vegetation. But they also use that tongue of theirs to keep the water in their mouth when throwing those heads back of theirs. Sandy Franklin, thank you for your question about elephants with one tusk. So, you do get elephants that do naturally occur with only one tusk or even completely tuskless individuals. It's often more common in female elephants, and again, it's mostly genetic, so it's a genetic deformity, shall you say, and can be passed from mother to offspring or grandmother to offspring as well. So it can be a genetic thing, but also elephants' tusks, especially in males, can often be broken. And from time to time, if an elephant's tusk is broken too high up, or if the cracks go too high up into the kind of cavity within their jaw, there is actually a small burrowing weevil parasite that can actually get into that crack and go eventually get into the brain, and that can actually make elephants go completely mad. So again, very important to monitor and watch elephants' behavior, because sometimes an elephant might not be in musk and it might not be a young individual, so you might think that the elephant is okay, but sometimes elephants that are sick or have parasites burrowing into their brains can be a little bit unpredictable and a little bit, very aggressive. So it's very important to keep a lookout and be wary of these individuals. I know quite a few elephants that have had to been shot because of, attacking people, and it wasn't necessarily their fault, shame, but it can happen. These things. So, yeah, but it's crazy to think of a little weevil that can burrow itself into the brain of an elephant. I guess there's lots of parasites that are kind of in the natural world. I know recently there were some photos of a giraffe in the Kruger that had like a lot of very strange growths on its neck, or all of its body actually. I know they're still doing a lot of studies to figure out what was wrong with that giraffe. Some of these parasites can infect other individuals, or also infect individuals with a compromised immune system. So so that's why science and kind of research is very important to try and eradicate these nasty parasites. Check it, what a lovely view this is. Would be lovely to take some videos and photos here at Hyena Pan today. A very picturesque landscape with those baby blue skies, all those building up cumulonimbus clouds, these green mapanis, and of course that white Kalahari sand. So the water at Hyena Pan, obviously these white Kalahari sands does have a lot of salt in, and even if you have a cup of tea or coffee at Hyena Pan, you can actually taste like you've got half a tablespoon of salt and sugar inside your tea. It's very, very salty sand here in Hyena Pan, or Sodak areas, which can dehydrate animals quite a lot as well. So that's why they need to frequent these watering holes. Jimmy, thank you for your question. So Jimmy is asking, where am I hoping to visit this year that I haven't already? So Jimmy, as much as I can travel, I always love to travel. A few things that I would like to make sure that I fill my year with is, of course, more travel buddies, passport stamps, and flight tickets. So the more that I can travel, the better. But a few places on my list for the year. I'd love to do the Thule block on horseback safari. That would be epic. Of course, I do love Hyena Pan, so I'd love to explore, go to Hyena Pan again and explore the Kwai concession, maybe stay at some new camps with natural selection would be pretty awesome. I'd love to do Gabon this year. That's definitely always on the top of my list. And Jimmy, I would love to know where you would love to travel to this year. So many places to travel out there in the world and so little time. But definitely Hyena Pan is one of my favorite destinations in Botswana that I've been to so far. So if you have not been to Hyena Pan, I definitely would recommend giving them a visit. There's a very special location with very close access to the Moremi Private Game Reserve, as well as the Kwai concession. It's a community-based concession that is available. So if you'd like to travel more with Wild Earth, please scan the QR code on screen now to view some of our destinations and travel locations that you can actually travel with us with some of our naturalists that you have seen on the live drives that are going to be taking quite a few safaris in this year coming. So if you're looking for your next adventure, head over to the Wild Earth website and see what adventures you could join in on with us. So, Wild at Heart, thank you for commenting on this giraffe that you have apparently seen in the Kruger National Park. Yes, it is dreadful. I've never seen a hyena, giraffe with such unusual skin lesions or skin, I don't even know what you would call that. It's almost like skin protrusions or skin disease. Again, I know they are doing research on it to see what is the issue. Apparently, the giraffe itself is not in any pain. And unfortunately, in most private reserves, if there was an individual like this, the best thing would unfortunately be to put that individual down and take as many tests as possible of those strange growths because. Yeah, the chance of that giraffe infecting more giraffe is probably pretty high. So I'm not sure what their plan is with that giraffe, but yeah, I hope that they either find a good treatment. But again, treating an individual in a natural environment like that can also be an issue because if that giraffe dies and whatever has been used to treat the giraffe can cause a secondary infection to something else, another creature, or affect another creature, whatever antibiotics. So it's always a bit of a tricky one. So Fuzzy Dunlop, thank you for watching. Beautiful skies here today and lovely to see the golden sunshine and this golden light. So very privileged to be able to see Hyena Pan here. It does have a very soft place in my heart for Hyena Pan. I think the mopani trees and that white sand, the white Kalahari sand, often remind me of home in Zimbabwe. So. Alrighty, folks, we've been at Hyena Pan for a bit, so why don't we go and check out Juma and see what's come down to the watering hole? Oh, goodness gracious me. We've got a female waterbuck that, yes, she was licking her baby bottoms, her baby's bottom. So this will often happen. So what happens with a lot of antelope is they'll actually lick their baby's bottoms in order to try and encourage them to use the bathroom. So yeah, it's a very natural thing in the animal kingdom. I know for humans it sounds a bit disgusting, but it's very natural. And even in some species of animals, like warthogs, I know warthogs will actually eat their mother's feces in order to start their gut, get their gut probiotics kind of working and introduce natural enzymes into their stomach. So again, something that is pretty gross for us humans is very natural for wild animals. It's not just warthogs that might eat their mother's feces, but other animals. So, no, I have not been to India, but I think mandrills is higher up on my list. Those mandrills in Gabon, definitely something very high up on my list. India, yes, I know they have the sloth bear, which I would love to see in India, and of course a lot of primate species. Tigers, I know, are very popular at this moment as well, but there's just a bit too overrun on the tourism side for me, so I think I'd go for mandrills before I head to India. Sandy Franklin, walking safaris. So I'm not sure if you're like referring to walking safaris in Botswana or Zimbabwe. I would definitely recommend walking safaris in Zimbabwe over Botswana. Not too sure about the walking safari scene in Botswana. I've only done a few walking safaris in the Delta, which most of them I was pretty much lead and back up on those safaris. With obviously you do have to have local guides with you, but walking safaris in Zimbabwe for me are some of the best safaris that you can do. Walking in private reserves, national parks, in these massive open areas with wildlife. It's incredible. You can get up close and personal, just like we are up close and personal with these waterbuck. I must say this little baby waterbuck is melting my heart right now. Very cute little creature. And very well camouflaged as well. So this female waterbuck will generally separate herself from the rest of the herds. The waterbuck herds or family structures are not as big in big family groups as with impala. So generally 3 to about 5 individuals, the females, and she will separate herself for a few days before she has her baby, in order for her baby to imprint on her. So she'll stash her baby in a thick area if she leaves or moves away. And this time can be anything between 5 to 10 days where she is alone with her baby to help to imprint her baby onto her so the baby can learn her smell and her sound so that when she rejoins the group, that this little one knows exactly who her mother is. So it's quite cool how waterbuck have, not just waterbuck, but impala also have the same method as well of imprinting. So Heather, yes, just as with most antelope and of course elephant, rhino species as well. So with most species, when the adolescent males start becoming sexually mature, they will be kicked out of the herd. So mostly when you see waterbuck, I primarily see females with their young ones, maybe one male that might be in the herd. But those young males, once they become sexually mature, especially in elephants, they start becoming a little bit testy. They will get kicked out of the prenatal family group. So, wild at heart, I will 100% agree with you there. One of the best walking safari experiences that I would recommend in Zimbabwe, and even renowned for being one of the best walking safaris in Africa, is actually with Stretch Ferreira in Zimbabwe. And he does some walking safaris in Mana pools. He's known to be one of the best guides in Zimbabwe. Incredible walking safaris. Another really good up and coming guide is Mitch Riley. He also does some incredible walking safaris as well throughout Zimbabwe. Very special time to be in the bush with professionals. Your mind can be at ease while you're close up with elephants, lions, and all kinds of other animals. This female waterbuck, she is really hoping that her baby will use the bathroom. This little one's obviously not ready for a toilet break just yet. Rebecca Bishop, I agree with you there. This baby waterbuck is very, very cute. Very spunky and spontaneous, bouncing all over the place. Joanne Miller, yes, this waterbuck is definitely giving us some entertainment. Very cute little guy. Must be probably about 2 weeks old. Probably just under 2 weeks, maybe even just over a week, maybe 10 days. If the mother's still licking its bottom and trying to get it to use the bathroom, means it's still quite young. Very windy in Mabula. I wonder what the weather forecast for Mabula is this afternoon. I hope they're not going to get too much rain. No, in oh, look at this little waterbuck. The perfect height, this waterbuck, is it up? Giving the impala a bit of a fright. So we all had a question earlier about herbivores and if all herbivores are kind of at harmony with one another. So you can see most herbivores that they don't compete with each other for much. In fact, different herbivores actually have different feeding strategies and also different food that they feed on. So besides a little baby waterbuck terrorizing two poor impala, they don't have too much competition. Very, very cute. So yeah, some animals even in grazing, kind of in grazing cycle in different open grassland areas. Like, especially a good example is your wildebeest and your zebra and impala. So the three different species can feed in the same area, but they're not all necessarily feeding on the same types or the same height of vegetation. So it's kind of all the different niches that different animals fulfill in order for there to be enough food to go around for all the different animals. Otherwise, if all mammals or antelope or birds, reptiles, if they all fed on the same size food, the same type of food, or the same length of food, there wouldn't be enough food to go around. So every different family has adapted to filling a different niche so that there is enough food to go around. Rebecca Bishop, yes, these impala, very skeptical. All right, folks, should we link across to Tau Lodge and see what the elephants are up to at Tau? Oh, we have a very excited male elephant here at Tau Lodge, and he looks like he's having a great time feeding on all of this grass. So he looks like he's probably had a bit of a bath or mud bath maybe an hour ago. He's already dried up. Got some cattle egrets down here as well. So elephants all over Africa are, yeah, well, very excited because they don't have to feed on such hard vegetation at this time. So you can see this big elephant bull is feeding on grass. So there's a lot of grass that the elephants are actually feeding on and eating. So this time of year, you do see a lot of very strange feeding areas where you can see elephants have been using their feet to dig up grass and push grass around. And yeah, so they're very happy at this time of year. They don't have to put so much pressure on their teeth. In the dry season, elephants do put a lot of strain on their teeth by feeding on a lot of very dense, coarse vegetation like bark of trees, tree branches, acacia branches that does wear their teeth down. So this time of year is a great time for the elephant's teeth to have a bit of a break from munching and chewing away on all of that hard vegetation. So elephants only have six, in some very rare cases, seven sets of teeth. Once they've worn down their last pair of teeth, they are, yeah, it makes it very difficult for them to feed, and sometimes that's what a lot of elephants will die from is probably starvation because they are unable to eat. I know last year I did find a few skulls of elephants that you could see that obviously died from starvation, trying to feed with no teeth. So we found this old elephant skull, old cow, and at first I thought maybe she had eaten something noxious plant or poisonous plant, but then when we inspected her teeth, we could see that her teeth were worn down to the last set of teeth, and they were actually very loose inside her jaw. Oh, we got a zebra. Got a little a herd or harem of zebra coming down to drink, and this is a beautiful setting here. Check out this green, yellow, some zebra, dappled black and white, some very reddish colored elephants. This makes for quite a lovely screenshot or photo right now. So we've got a Rebecca Bishop is asking about these yellow flowers. So, Rebecca, I'm not actually 100% sure what these yellow flowers are. It's a bit difficult for me to see from here. But I do know there are a lot of daisies that different colors, different types of daisies that are flowering at the moment. I know in Mabula there were also some very small daisies that were flowering. So, it could be one of the flower of the daisy family. Most of them are very yellow. So, I'm going to go with that. And shucks, check at this. It's actually a little breeding herd, and there's a female with very long tusks. This is not this is crazy. This is a beautiful sighting right here, folks. It's my first time actually seeing tau so green like this, with zebra, yellow daisies, herd of elephants coming down. Nice elephant bull to our right. Isn't this a lovely sight? Tau has been very dry, so in Madikwe they probably received good rains very late this year. I know that it's been a really hard dry season in Madikwe. Yeah, definitely into Botswana as well, very late rains. So it is lovely to see all this greenery and to see such a nice lush area. Matikwe has been very dry, very depressing. Shame, not much vegetation. This area is normally completely barren, so it is an absolute privilege to see such abundant life. Again, we were talking about tusks and tusk formations earlier. So you can see this female all the way to the left. It's very unusual to have a female elephant with such thick, long tusks, and it'll probably be chances of her calf having very long tusks are quite high. So I've seen with female elephants, often their offspring can have kind of similar shaped tusks to the mother, shaped or kind of length, thickness can be quite similar to the mother. Obviously, all elephants are unique in their tusk shape formation and, of course, the rips and tears in their ears, but they can have a lot of similarities to their parents. I'm completely blown away by the incredible dense vegetation that is green vegetation that is taken over this area here in front of the pan at Tau Lodge in Madikwe. It's lovely to see a bit of shade, lots of greenery, and of course those yellow flowers are just blowing my mind. Oh, you've got a red-knobbed coot that's out of the water, oh, just on the edge of the water, some common moorhens, and I wonder what our crocodiles are up to. Lots of butterflies flying around, I'm sure being attracted by those yellow daisies. It's definitely making for quite a lovely photo, isn't it? So somewhere to the left of the stump in the water, there was a warthog rubbing stump, a tree, a fallen over tree that the warthogs had taken over and used it as their rubbing stump. You can't even see it inside this thick vegetation. This perfect moment right here for a few screenshots, or if you were sitting at this lodge, this would make an incredible photo right now. Contrast of zebras, black and white, dappled colors, and of course the giraffe, uh, elephants, and the greenery with that yellow line of flowers. It's completely different, this area. It looks completely different. Can't even recognize some of the spots here. You know, the Egyptian geese and all the other water birds are very happy that there's a lot more water here, because shame this pan was just a few puddles and lots of mud. You know, those crocodiles were definitely struggling to get around. One day we even watched a little baby elephant wallowing in the mud right next to a crocodile. It was quite unusual. Yeah, everyone was wondering why the crocodile wasn't attacking the little baby elephant. Obviously not too thirsty, these elephants, if they're not going straight down to the water. Obviously lots of water around, so not too phased by drinking. Maybe they're just coming into this nice open area to also feed on the grass. Maybe they've already had a drink elsewhere. Spas Ian Kalf, thank you for joining us today. This is definitely a lovely scenery to end off the show today. And yeah, it's been a great day, Spas Ian Kalf. I would definitely recommend watching closer to the beginning of the show. We had an amazing sighting, awesome birds at Campus Dam over in Kimberley. So yeah, some good birding there. We even got flamingos. Rebecca Bishop. It has been a lovely day. A lot of interesting, contrasting landscapes we've seen today. The elephant also had the rhinos in the rain over in Eastern Cape at Founders Lodge. Of course, hyena pan always makes my day, but those elephants, well, we've had elephants almost everywhere today. Lots and lots of elephants. So it's definitely been quite a diverse day. A lot of different interesting sightings. I think the flamingos also made my day. Joanne Millo, happy Monday. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Yes, and thank you for all the questions and comments, Rebecca Bishop. I hope to see you the same time tomorrow as well, live at the waterhole. It's been a great day, and what a good way to end off the show with these elephants. Hopefully we'll get these little babies having a mud bath. Sandy, Franklin, thank you for sending those questions. Please feel free to send away anytime. I will be with you tomorrow as well. Looking forward to another day live at the waterhole. Oh, we've got some cattle egrets coming to take advantage of any disturbed insects that these elephants might be disturbing through the vegetation here. Lady, wildlife lady, it is a lovely scenery. Really enjoying seeing Madikwe so green. Oh, and we also have big male waterbuck just to the right hand side of the screen. What a lovely sighting there. Looks like a pretty impressive male waterbuck. It's also coming out into this nice open area to feed on all this lovely grass. So with the dry season and these pans being so active, they definitely fill the environment with a lot of manure and compost. So when the rains come, there's a lot of compost rich soils from all the animal movement. Oh, we've got a little baby rolling in the mud. What a lovely sighting. These elephants must be hot. It's a very hot day. It looks like the sun is shining, and I'm sure these little baby elephants can't help themselves to roll around in the mud. Just take a moment to also appreciate that waterbuck. Very impressive male waterbuck there on the left. Very impressive widely splayed horns. Just taking a moment of appreciation, folks, to appreciate what a lovely day it has been here live at the waterhole, ending off with these elephants. Thank goodness they came down for a drink. I was worried that they might just hang around and feed on the grass, but thank goodness they've come down for a bit of a splish and a splash. I think I'm also going to go and have a pool party just now. Not with the elephants, unfortunately, but definitely worth a bit of a cool off and plonk in the water, just like this baby elephant. Viennas Williams, thank you for joining us today. And yeah, it's been a lovely day. Thank you for all those questions that you sent through. And yeah, I really look forward to another day live at the waterhole with the rest of everyone tomorrow. I'd love to see one of these female elephants having a mud bath. It's very rare to see female elephants actually swimming in a watering hole. The bulls and babies normally take over that elephant pool party and have a great time swimming and cooling off after a long, hot day. Maybe this elephant bull will indulge us. Well, folks, it has been a pleasure being with you today live at the waterhole. Please don't forget to tune in to our live at the waterhole tomorrow. Same time, same place for me and the rest of the Wild Earth team. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday.